I hope there were one or two things you got out of our days together from me other than an ulcer and an eating disorder.
Yes, definitely true. You really embraced me and took me out socially and helped me not feel lonely in a place where I just moved. And I really appreciated that. I learned like a lot of organization and just being accountable and being on time. And trust me, I learned a lot from you. Then I think watching you being so, you said it, I'm not saying it,
Yeah.
OCD,
Yep.
knowing that I just don't operate that way. I was just nervous that I wouldn't be able to be that way, which was true. But in the end, I took the job and I was able to work in the way that was comfortable for me. It changed the whole trajectory of my career being there and learning from her. She's so precise. She's very decisive. She knows what she wants. She never second guesses herself. And I find that I've implemented that in my work moving forward. I was so young there and impressionable, and I learned a lot of those traits from her. I had
And then
nothing but a great experience, to be honest.
this is Gone Rogue, and I'm Jill Demling. Today's guest is Leslie Fremar. Before she became one of Hollywood's most powerful stylists, she sat shoulder to shoulder with me, quite literally, in the fashion trenches, otherwise known as Anna Wintour's office, where we served as Anna's assistants together. Yes, the real-life Andy and Emily, but with better shoes and juicier secrets. Don't worry, AW, we got your back. It's no wonder Leslie's client list reads like an Oscar ballot with her prized motto: you have to feel good to look good. Let's hear what happens when we turn back the clock to 1999 and Leslie Fremar goes rogue. Hi, Leslie.
Hi, good to see you. You look great.
You too. So before we start, I was trolling your Instagram just because I wanted to see some of the red carpet looks that you posted, because I went through all of Charlize's and I kind of ranked mine. And there's so many. But there's a lot of posts of Bob Dylan.
Yes.
And he appears as frequently as Charlize does. So for one second, I was like, does Leslie style Bob Dylan?
That would be incredible.
But really, what is it about Bob Dylan? Is it his music, his style, his philosophy, or all of the above?
I think it's everything. I love his music. I love his lyrics. I love his style. I love his kind of doesn't give a shit attitude about life. I find him profound, and he's just like an inspiration to me. Even in fashion, like some of his old photos, I just love the polka dots and the collars and the blazers, and I just love him.
Yeah, I love the lyrics or the quotes that you pull out too. It's very Leslie. How would you describe your vision and your style? Who is the Leslie Fremar girl?
I think all my clients look different. They look like themselves. I interject my point of view in a way that is not too obvious, which is a talent in itself, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's about understanding the person. I think as you work with someone, the looks get better. I always say when you start working with someone, it takes time to build and nurture the relationship and understand the person. When I start with a client, I always ask them, like, when they go shopping, where do they go? Which brand do you gravitate to? Do you dress more masculine? Are you really feminine in your dress? Is it ethereal? Is it sexy? There's so many different points of view how you can present yourself. And I think once I understand that, then I can really hone in on the fashion. I don't want to look back on it and be like, "Ooh, why did I embrace that trend?" I just think it's classic, but there's a twist. I like really well-made clothes. I can appreciate incredible design, incredible craftsmanship. When a garment has been made really well, those fit really well.
Right.
So there is an art to that too.
Okay. So while I think one's upbringing can be significant in who they become, not only as an adult, but as a professional, we don't have a lot of time to talk about the full beginning because from experience, I've found out that starting from the beginning can take hours, especially if it's with someone like Grace Coddington, because you're
Yeah.
talking about eight
Right.
decades. And I know you're a busy woman. So I asked Gemini to give me a quick synopsis of your life up until the day you had your first interview at Condé Nast. So here's what she said.
Okay.
This is word for word because I just love it.
Okay.
Leslie Fremar was born and raised in Toronto, Canada. Her interest in fashion developed early in life, and she pursued this interest by interning before moving to New York City. To facilitate her move from Canada to the United States, Fremar registered at the Fashion Institute of Technology, FIT, and obtained a student visa. While enrolled at FIT, she secured an internship at Harper's Bazaar in the accessories department. This internship proved to be her initial entry into the fashion industry in New York. After her internship, Fremar's career took a significant turn when she landed a job at American Vogue as assistant to editor-in-chief Anna Wintour. She has described this opportunity as being a result of just by luck. So how did Gemini do?
Perfect. I couldn't have said it better myself, I don't think.
So, so knowing that your interest in fashion developed early in life, what was it that initially interested you? Do you remember how young you were, and were your parents supportive of this whole I want to be in fashion, mom and dad?
I tried to model at around 16, and I didn't love being in front of the camera, but I still was really interested in photography. And I met an editor in Toronto. I don't remember his last name, but his first name was Luigi. And he was a fashion editor at the time at Flair magazine. And I interned there. I actually interned in the art department, but he let me come on a fashion shoot with him. And I really liked being behind the scenes. So that's kind of what ignited my interest in magazines. And my sister had moved to New York, so I came to visit her a few times and wanted to be here with her. So that kind of made it all come together, I think.
Yeah, your parents were lucky to have your older sister here because coming to New York City, a lot of people feel like they get spit out here. Like I really do think it's a type of person that comes here and can't imagine not being here forever. And then other people, it can be tough. So it's always good to have a support system of sorts.
Yeah. I mean, my dad's really progressive, and he was always like, you're going to have to find your way. I'm not going to help you mentality.
Right.
I remember the day he like took me to the bank and he co-signed a loan for me, and he was like, you're going to have to pay it back. And that's how I like paid for my rent. And I had to get a job.
Did you pay him back?
I paid the bank back. Yeah.
Oh, oh, wow. That's
Yep.
hardcore.
Yeah. He only co-signed it.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Bravo. That's a great tip for everyone out there has kids that are young. I'm going to definitely use that for
I
sure.
was mad at him at the time, but looking back, it does. It creates independence. It creates drive. It creates this willingness to work hard because no one's going to give it to you unless you do it yourself.
Okay, so set the scene leading up to your interview at Condé Nast. So I can't remember if we were in 350 Madison or 4 Times Square at that time.
You were in 350 Madison. I interviewed actually with Bucky, who is the head of HR. I interviewed to be Amy Astley's assistant in beauty, and I did not get the job. Tinsley Mortimer actually got the job.
I remember that. I remember that.
And then the next day, Bucky called me and said that I didn't get the job, but would I come in and meet with Anna? She was looking for a junior assistant on her desk. And I was nervous, but I was interning at Harper's at the time, and the girls kind of helped me get dressed and look the part.
Yeah, what
Sword
did
and a
you wear?
sword.
Yeah, because everybody I've spoken to remembers exactly what they wore to meet Anna. Some people still have the outfit, like Carla Martinez. Brian Coates, he doesn't remember the actual interview, but he remembers what he wore. So it's really funny.
Oh, I remember exactly what I wore. I wore a Jill Stewart top and skirt, and then I worked in the accessories department at Harper's, and they loaned me a pair of Jimmy Choo pumps. My skirt was like dark navy, and my shirt was like a button down, and it was black. And that's what I wore. I don't have it still. I wish I did, but I don't.
So did you meet Anna first or did you meet me first? I can't remember.
I met with you first. I don't remember it that well. I don't even remember my interview with Anna that well, except for you warned me that she was going to ask me what book I was reading.
Right.
And, but that's really all I remember. What I do remember is when they offered me the job and they said that the start time was 7:30, I was like, I don't think I can take this job because I was just basically out of college and I didn't think I could wake up that early and
Right.
commit to it like long term. I was like, God, I don't think I can do it. But then my parents were like, you're taking the job.
It's yeah, you're not taking a job because of the start time. Okay, so then if you were 7:30, I was probably 7:45-ish.
Yeah. You would stroll in around 8, maybe.
That,
If you knew she was coming in later.
I mean, how nuts is that?
Yeah.
How early we were in. And I do remember coming in and my answering machine, the red lights blinking, and it was like, you have 20 messages. And they were all from Anna about things that we had to do. And I'd have to rewind and listen, rewind and listen. I mean, it's so crazy. So,
Yeah.
did you start immediately?
I did. I think the position was open and they needed someone like ASAP. I think I started the next week and I was just thrown into it without really being able to think much about it.
Right. And
Um,
I was thinking about that because I still remember you telling me you barely trained me to take your position. But honestly, to try to train someone in that chaos, and especially with Libby, who was the junior before you, she's still working. So I can only imagine trying to learn all this. I mean, I went through it too, but for some reason, I feel like when I started, it was in June. I feel like she must have been away for a bit because I do remember having time to take notes. I mean, not much. And then we all just say bye and move on into our other position. But yeah, what do you remember about those early
I
days?
remember, I mean, you and I are very different people.
Yes.
So I remember you like typing out her checks, and I was like, this is ridiculous and a complete waste of time. I'm handwriting them.
Yeah. And
And
the
like,
messenger slips. I wrote all this down, the messenger slips too.
yeah, I used to type them out on a typewriter. And I was like, this is such a waste of time. I'm just going to handwrite them. She's never even going to see the messenger slips. So, yes, there was little things like that that kind of stand out to me. But I remember she'd be like, put me through, which is like a lingo she would say, put me through to, I don't know, an
Lord
example.
Rothschild.
Yeah, Rothschild. And I'd be like, I didn't even know who that was. So I was like trying to figure out like who the players were while learning the job because I didn't know that much.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I talked to Karen about this a lot because it is very specific in the industry and definitely specific to Anna how you address people. So it was Mr. Lagerfeld, Mr. De Laurentiis, Lord Rothschild, and coming from LA for me, it was Stevens on the phone. That's Spielberg. So definitely learning that. And she had that circle of friends that you knew. Some of them you had to tell her right away, right? We wrote down on a card and brought the card into wherever she was and just kind of learning all of that. And yeah, the way we rolled calls, per se, it's kind of an agent lingo, was bringing her the slip that had the phone number on it sometimes
Right.
instead of us just dialing it. So it was definitely And the diary, like when she just rattle off, like, I'll
Oh,
do this there, and it's upside down where we're sitting, and it's
yeah.
like memorizing where she's pointing
Yeah.
at. I know. I read
It
this.
was almost like training to read her mind almost.
Oh, exactly. I
Yeah.
think one time I thought she said out loud, "Where's Igor?" That is her driver for everyone listening that would have no idea who that was. Um,
Yeah.
and I said, "Oh, he's on the corner of 42nd and whatever." And I think it was, if it wasn't you, it was Libby who said, she didn't say anything. She just said Jill. And I was like, no, she said, "Where's Igor?" She's like, no.
That's
No.
amazing.
It
Yeah.
is pretty quite crazy. But I read a quote from you that I think most everyone who starts at Vogue can relate to, but especially anyone who worked as Anna's assistant. It took a lot of figuring it out and some sink or swim moments. I mean, that says it all because
True.
it's just figuring it out. And Anna is not a fan of you asking, wait, can you say that again? Can you
Right.
repeat yourself? So
Yeah, there was no twice. You couldn't ask twice.
right, exactly. You couldn't
Yeah.
ask twice.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I love the Jill, you must have misunderstood me, which is typically when she might have made a mistake.
Right.
Um, but I think it really was the best training. It's funny because I've had assistants through the years who just don't get it. And it's also that we're trained at such a high level there that you can't expect anyone to have had that training unless they were in Anna Wintour's office, basically.
Oh, yeah. It's like Harvard, basically. It changed the whole trajectory of my career being there and learning from her. She's so precise. She's very decisive. She knows what she wants. She never second guesses herself. And I find that I've implemented that in my work moving forward. I was so young there and impressionable, and I learned a lot of those traits from her. I just feel like I work so much more efficiently because of learning from her. I had
And
nothing
then,
but a great experience, to be honest.
yeah. And when you've had assistants, do you expect certain things from them that you had to do for Anna?
I think I just talk in a way that's really straightforward and you can't misinterpret it. It's like very direct, and this is what we need to do. So it's not up for like discussion, but I run my office a little bit more lax than she does. I think we're in a different time now. I'm not as strict, but I definitely am straightforward, which I found she was, which I appreciated a lot because,
Right.
she just directly asks you for what she needs or what needs to get done, and you do it. That's it.
Yeah, and it's funny because we were both so young. I mean, I was 24. Were you like 22?
Yeah, I think I was 21.
So that being our first job, it's also like we haven't known anything else. So it's to have that be your first job and just expect this is how it is, then it can only get easier, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I definitely have taken some of her tips. When you put something in her diary, if you give her an address, when you write an email, there's no spelling errors. Everything has to be perfect. And I just remember one time I was supposed to go to a Lanvin fitting. I relied on the address that was in my calendar, and it was wrong. And I'm like, how can you put the wrong? I'm like, I'm not
Right.
Anna, but still, come on, girl. Like,
Right.
Um,
Right.
so we did have some crazy times. And it is funny because I was thinking about exactly what you said about how different we were, and how anal and OCD I was, even about the food, because I had been told she doesn't
Oh
like.
my God, I can't even talk about that.
Yeah.
You told me that we're not allowed to eat at the desk, which was not true.
Well, it was because Melissa had said she doesn't like to smell food.
Which I don't even think is true.
So remember, I got us those protein smoothies. I'm like,
Yes, I was never skinnier. And then when you left the office, I was like eating like proper lunch. She never said a thing. So I don't think it was a thing. I think I broke that cycle.
Well, it's funny because when I was being trained, Melissa said she only liked blue file folders. And Melissa walked by my desk one time early on when I was just starting and saw my colored file folders and said, "Oh, Anna's not going to like those colored file folders. She only likes blue." And I said, "They make them in different colors so you know who's who. So Charlie's yellow and B is pink." And she's just like, "Good luck." So I think it's funny how things kind of get passed down, like no perfume, no, it was
Right.
all of those things. Because I remember we could see her reflection in the conference room, and I was like
Yeah.
eating a Sour Patch Kid, and she walked in and she asked me a question. I was like, "God damn it!" And whenever
I
I
do.
got, yeah,
I do know. I remember a time I had Birkenstocks under my desk,
I saw those. I was going to tell you that. Yes.
and I would change when she left. And then she called me once from the elevator and she was like, "I forgot something. Can you bring it to the elevator?" But I had already changed my shoes. So I ran there in my Birks and she kind of looked at them like, "Ugh, why are you wearing those?" And I felt it. She didn't say it, but it
Yeah.
was like a feeling. Maybe she wasn't even thinking it, but I felt like I was caught doing
Well, it's
something wrong.
Yeah, because she asked me one time, I don't know where you were or what was going on, but she called me when I was already entertainment editor and asked if I could help with the phones. And I sat in your chair and I saw like Birks,
Socks.
Uggs, everything. And I was like, "Oh my God." And then I saw all the written messenger slips. So I was like, "Oh my God." And then I thought, I hope I'm not Emily in that movie.
Oh my God.
I
So fun.
realized how strict I became. It's funny. I hope there were one or two things you got out of our days together from me, other than an ulcer and an eating disorder.
Yes, definitely true. You really embraced me and took me out socially and helped me not feel lonely in a place where I just moved. And I really appreciated that. I learned like a lot of, yeah, organization and just being accountable and being on time. And trust me, I learned a lot from you, definitely.
It was very intense, but looking back, we can probably laugh if we can even remember a lot of the things that happened. Are there any memories that stick out for you? I wrote down a couple. Although I did think we got in at 6:30 and 6:45, so I'm glad it was 7:30 and 7:45. I remember the amethyst necklace when you dropped that and you were so upset. And I go, "Don't worry, like it has to be shortened. It keeps breaking." So we ended up taking it, or you took it to
Yeah.
the jeweler and got it shortened, and all was okay. So I remember that you were so upset. I could picture it perfectly, like where you
Yeah.
were. I remember we had to do Bee's birthday party at
Oh, yeah.
Serafina. I think it
Yes, I
was her
remember.
12th birthday or something.
I remember that. And I think you were like, "You're working. I'm busy." And I was like, "What? You're gonna like throw me into this?"
I think
And
I went for the beginning because I can remember she had to go to a play and she was saying, "Get the pizza and the cake. Like, this is taking too long. Have them bring the pizza and the cake all out at once." Like,
I it definitely she like followed a timeline. But I remember feeling like super overwhelmed, being, "What am I doing at like a kid's birthday party?" And just trying to figure it out. I was so, yeah, I was really fresh. Right, right,
oh,
right,
yeah.
thrown right in there.
And then with the Devil Wears Prada book,
Mhm.
did the charter plane and the Harry Potter book happen with you and Lauren?
But yeah, so I hired Lauren and it didn't happen in that way. The book makes it seem so
Oh,
ridiculous.
no, of course. Yeah.
But I think that, there was a storm and there was a delay and I was out at a restaurant. So was Lauren. And we were like trying to figure it out for her, like when she could get out. She wasn't like insisting on flying through a storm,
Right.
but there definitely was like some stress around it. So yes, it was Lauren and I.
Okay. It's funny because you say you're like, "I don't really remember my interview with you." And Lauren seemed to remember it perfectly because,
Right.
I mean, she makes me black and going into the beauty department. I'm like, we were always so hot in that office. I was wearing a sleeveless turtleneck Michael Kors sweater. I mean, I had a little fan on me. I took the Kava Kava pills that were, there was an article about Kava Kava in the magazine to relax you. So I had Libby on them too. And Libby, my old junior, was like, I just read another article that these aren't good for you. I'm like, just take them. They're working. Because your heart rate would go so high. I'd start sweating. I mean, it was insane.
I definitely would get anxious at times, but I also, that's another thing I learned, how to like manage that kind of stress. I don't find in my current job that I get flustered in any type of situation. That doesn't happen to me much. So I think that was good training and kind of just, you can handle whatever is thrown at you.
Exactly. Like I always say, it's going to work out. Yeah. And I always said that to Anna too, throughout all the years. You know, some editor would go in and say, Sarah Jessica, this or that, and I'm like, Anna, until you hear it from me, I got it. I got it. You know, just because from experience, it always worked out. So until we're at the point where someone pulled out and it's over, I can worry about that. She doesn't have to. Like, let me figure it out. And I also always told everyone, do not go into Anna's office to tell her about a problem unless you have a solution to suggest. Yeah. So I'd always say, please don't go in there. Like, I'm just trying to figure out if I'm saying someone's not available, let me get a list of people who are. So that right away.
That's fair. Yeah. I don't know if I did that, but I can definitely see you doing that.
Yeah. I also remember just little things. And I know there's so many crazy things that we can't. I remember like, she got her hair cut with the book and there was like hair in the book and a cookie in the book once.
Really? I don't remember that.
I remember when we were going to Stephanie Winston's wedding and by accident got in her car.
Yes, I remember that. Oh my God.
And what
was like, you took my car.
Didn't she say, why are you in a Manhattan limo and I'm in a taxi?
Yeah.
God, it's so funny.
That did happen. Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I definitely remember we were like super close friends too. You were kind of like a little sister. I remembered 2 times I think I got evening calls when I was on the Upper West Side that I came down to you. I think you were in the Village or downtown somewhere. Yeah. One was a mouse that had jumped out of your comforter.
That's true. Oh my God.
And one was a breakup, Brad or Brandon. Yeah, you're a totally little sister to me. So when I was promoted at the end of 1999, you were reluctant to take my position. And I remember Anna calling me in and saying, Jill, you must convince Leslie to take your job. She's just lacking confidence. And I'm sure I walked right over to you and said, you have to take the job.
Yeah.
Was it just that you didn't want to be the first one to get the heat? Because you had been there a pretty long time.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I still felt young and learning and like new to New York. And yeah, I think she was right. I probably didn't have the confidence to take over the office. And I think watching you being so, I mean, you said it, I'm not saying it, OCD, knowing that I just don't operate that way. I was just nervous that I wouldn't be able to be that way, which was true. But in the end, I took the job and I was able to work in the way that was comfortable for me. And I actually ended up really enjoying it. You know, I ended up hiring Lauren, who wrote this book. So she never trusted me again in hiring. I remember I suggested another girl to be an assistant in the fashion department. And she called me in and she was like, you know, I don't know about.
No, she did that to me. She did that to me too, because I had to meet Lauren first. So she didn't trust my judgment after that either. I remember when she asked me about a couple goals, she made comments. Well, but the last girl you thought was great. Like she'd repeat
Yeah.
what I said to describe Lauren because I used that to describe someone else, but she also never trusted me. It took her a while to trust me about who would be an Oscar nominee because of Julianne Moore not getting nominated for Shipping News. She would say, "Oh, is it another Shipping News?" And once I had to say, "The horse is dead." Please. That was 5 years ago.
Yeah, she has an impressive memory
Yeah, it is
for sure.
crazy.
Yeah.
So when did you decide you want to work in the fashion department? I know that was always something you wanted to do, but did Tani come to you? I know there's a process of how it has to work
No, actually, I spoke to Anna about it, and she suggested that I go on a shoot that was shooting on the weekend. And I actually flew to LA and we were shooting Sheryl Crow at her house. So I got to do that. And then when I got back, I said to her, this is really what I want to do. And when the job opened in Tani's office, I asked her if I could apply to work for Tani. And she said, well, you're going to have to interview like everyone else. I'm not going to just give you the job. And so I said, okay. And so we went through the process of interviewing and I ended up getting the job. And so she moved me out of the office. And I think at that time, my junior was Amy.
Oh, right. Oh, you
Yeah.
had a great junior.
So then Amy moved up and became her senior.
So you had told her before there was even a job open. Did you just feel you had paid your dues and you just said, I'm ready to move on and this is what I'm interested in? And what do you think? Was that how the conversation?
Yeah, I think I'd been in her office for a few years and it became second nature. And at that point, I was just like, okay, I'm ready to grow. And I think that's one of her best qualities. She really wants to train people and have them move within the magazine, the industry. And she still keeps track of me. Like she suggests me for jobs still to this day. And she really is supportive of growth, which I think is an incredible quality of a boss than trying to just keep them stunted in a position where you're not going to move. She really wanted you to move and thrive. So I commend her for that.
No, I agree. That's what I told Lauren, and I think it might be in the book, but that's the first thing I said when I was interviewing people for the junior assistant position is that you start here, but the world's your oyster from here. And what I think is so great about that specific role as her assistant, and it's kind of what Brian Lord told me when I was offered the job and I wasn't sure if I wanted to take it. Brian said, you're in the middle of the storm in a way. I mean, you're seeing every aspect of the industry. You're not just, interning for a designer or assisting a stylist. You're seeing everything. All facets of the industry. And from there, you can really decide what interests you the most of all the things she has her hands in, and not to mention how many people you are in contact with from just being there. Yeah, for me, it was great because when that position opened up, I'd only worked for her for a year and a half. And right away, she just said, do you want it? Looking back after you just talked about how she operates in that way and how supportive she is, that was pretty major that I didn't even come to her saying I was ready to leave. She was like, do you want the job? And I'm like, hold on one second. Anna Wintour's office. Can I? Anna Wintour's office. So with Tani, I had a conversation with Gabby the other day for the podcast, and she spoke a lot about working for Tani. And I just think it's interesting what she said, and I would love to know your thoughts. She said, Tani was one of the most amazing editors at the time because she valued the voice of a generation that she didn't necessarily participate in. She loved to hear ideas about how we should dress a cover talent. It was incredible to be able to be honest with her. She wouldn't always accept the ideas, and sometimes she would have better ideas, but we were able to work as collaborators. I think it's like a very impossible situation to come across nowadays because there isn't so much reverence for apprenticeship. Tani gave me the space to learn the industry and also still affirm my voice. And I think if we had more editors like that, the landscape of current stylists would be a lot different. Is that similar to your experience?
I found Tawny as an editor incredible because she has a very strong point of view, which is what you need. You need to distinguish yourself from other editors that have a different point of view. It's a art form. And I found that she was very crystal clear in her messaging. And the person that she was dressing was a very sophisticated, classic woman and man. I found it crystal clear, and I learned that from her, that my aesthetic was not hers, and I needed to find mine, but it needed to be crystal clear. And I think that was the best takeaway that I got from working for Tawny. And I think that's true for all stylists. It can't be on trend, and it can't be what someone else is saying, and you can't get overwhelmed by seeing so much stuff. You have to have a strong vision and point of view and stay true to that. And I think with models, it's probably easier to do that because they're paid to play that character. But when we switched over to celebrities, and I was at Vogue at that time, yeah, I think it took Tawny a moment to understand that they came with a voice and an opinion and, how to collaborate. But she always put her touch on everything that she did, even in those situations.
No, I totally agree. You can tell a Tonne Goodman story. You can tell who's a Tonne Goodman girl. And when I did speak to Tawny, it's funny because we jumped right into celebrities and you were there because that happened to me. And it was about a year into my job, which would have been around the time that you had moved. And we did sometimes 11 covers on celebrities those early years. I was trying to find the exact number because when I was talking to Tawny, she couldn't believe it was at least 10 celebrity covers a year. One year that when you were there, I booked 12 celebrity covers in a year and she styled 11 of them. So, that's pretty crazy. And I know she said to me, I had no choice.
I mean, we basically gave up fashion stories for the inside. We were basically shooting covers the entire time. And when she did get to do a fashion story, I think that made her really happy. Like she loves doing that, narrating story and picking the location. And we used to travel all around the world, and we were really close because you're traveling with this person and relying on them. So that was a really fun time in my life, like as a memory, working for her.
And what were the immediate differences you noticed working for Tawny versus Anna, other than the hour that you had to get into the office?
Well, I think Anna lives and breathes her work. And Tawny, there was a little bit more separation. She was like, okay, I'm done working. I want to go home and be with my family. So I learned that from her. That's a different point of view than I think Anna has, where it's all encompassing. Tawny would really create that divide for herself, which I do as well now. And I think I saw that was possible from her.
Yeah, that's amazing. I did not see that because I spent the next 18 and a half years at Vogue and planned my daughter's birth to be in December. So Anna would have been annoyed if I took off time in November or January. So I was like, how close can I get this to Christmas break?
But I think that was in your head. I think she would have been happy for you to give birth any month of the year.
Of course. It's funny. It's like what you said about the Birkenstocks. It's not that these things have ever been said.
Right.
Some things are said that make the idea even come about. But yeah, we just assume and I think it's also being her assistant. Your job is to make her life easier. So that would make her life easier. Yeah, it was hard because staying there after being her assistant, you're kind of always her assistant. Not that she would treat me that way, but I always wanted her to be taken care of. It's like if Tawny's sitting in her seat at a screening, I'm going to tell Tawny to move, and I'm going to have a Pellegrino there for Anna when she arrives. It's just
Yeah,
like,
I understand that feeling.
yeah. So do you remember the first cover shoot you did with Tawny?
It was a model.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
going to say it was Giselle or Carmen or Carolina Korkova. I can't remember.
Yeah, they were all big at that time. I know that Carmen cast by Herb Ritz in the red bathing suit is like one of my all-time favorites. But
Yeah.
until The Devil Wears Prada and the September issue films came out, it's like most people probably thought working at Vogue was super glamorous. But I can remember you lugging trunks on that Gwyneth Paltrow cover shoot in London and Chris Martin helping you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important to pay your dues. I think people don't know that. And it probably also helps you. You know what your assistants are going through too. So it's just knowing you've done it. You've been there.
Yeah.
But can you tell us a bit about that grind? Just the grind of working at Vogue and assisting on these major shoots.
It's crazy. You'd show up at the airport with like 18 trunks filled with clothes, and the sky caps that work at the airport would recognize you because they know that you would tip them to help you check in. So we would know them, and we would have to go through, and some of the people checking you in would let you kind of bring it through as photo equipment, which was at a discounted rate. And then others would say, no, you need to open all the trunks. That doesn't look like photo equipment. I guess they had a journalist discount. And so you would try to get the trunks checked for as like cheap as possible. And when you couldn't, you were like disappointed in yourself. But then you would show up in some foreign country and you have to go through customs and like go through it all and all the jewelry. I mean, it was so intense. Then when you got there, you'd have to unpack it all. And
all by yourself.
All by yourself. You'd have to unpack it all. And then you'd have to pack it back up. Most countries actually, like if you were going to Japan or Europe, you'd have to carnet all the clothes. So they would actually have to be packed in order from like 1 to 1,000. And you have to
wait, each piece of clothing, how it was packed in the trunk?
Yes. So that when you went through customs, they would say, okay, it says number 480 is a Dior black gown made out of velvet. And you'd have to go and find Dior black velvet gown. So it had to be numbered in a system so you would know where it was. And it wouldn't take you like 7 hours to find the dress in the 14 trunks.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Because you can't just import and export clothes like that. It has to be recorded. They have to know that you're not selling it and that you're using it for art or whatever.
Yeah. Was there like
to follow it?
Oh my God. Was there like a nightmare experience doing all of that where you were like something?
It's a nightmare. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. We would have to hire brokers to like help us get through customs. And it was like a really different time. But I don't think that happens now.
And you're going
still have to take the clothes in properly, but you're not taking as much.
So what were the coolest countries that you visited on working out?
We went to Capri, or we were in Paris or London. We were in Japan. The budgets were big, and we would even reshoot stories, which doesn't happen now. If Anna didn't like them, they were killed after doing that.
Right.
We went to Sardinia. I remember going to Sardinia with Ashley Judd, and we stayed at the Missoni house, and it was just like incredible.
Oh yeah, I know that cover. It is Missoni where she's jumping.
Yeah.
I still like remember all of them. Well, speaking of covers, we did a lot of covers together with celebrities, and there's 2 covers that I've spoken to a few people about, and that was Angelina Jolie's first cover. So that was April 2002.
What was she wearing?
So she was wearing Narciso
Oh,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
cover.
Yeah, I remember
So
that.
tell me, because you'll probably know this most accurately. So you would have shot Gwyneth Paltrow with Herb before
Mhm.
that weekend where we shot Angelina. So if you remember, Angelina showed up and hated the clothes. It was the caftans, Tom
Mhm.
Ford, YSL. We had done all the sets as jungle theme, and
Oh, yeah.
she did
Mhm.
not want to wear any of it. So
Yeah.
so you and Tawny knew that you had a Gwyneth rack at the office, but it was a
Yeah.
weekend. So you had to go grab Gwyneth's rack for, I guess, what was a reshoot happening on Monday. But
Yeah.
so we ended up using Gwyneth's rack for
Uh-huh.
Angelina's cover shoot. And then when we were looking at the Gwyneth shoot, she is wearing one of those dresses. But now I'm confused. Oh, so this was a whole reshoot.
Yeah. The original shoot got killed.
Okay, tell me about that original shoot.
I'm not sure exactly why it got killed because the pictures were incredible, but I think maybe Anna just wanted to see her as herself. And we transformed her into iconic women. And Kevin O'Quan did the makeup,
Wow.
and it was incredible. It really, the shoot, we did it in Malibu, and I think I still have Polaroids of it somewhere.
Wow.
And she really looked like Marilyn and Liz Taylor. And it was amazing, but it never ran.
I know Tawny was talking about it. She loved that shoot. And we
Yeah.
actually went through the issue when she was on Going Rogue. And, it barely has any images in it. That reshoot, the cover is stunning.
Yeah.
But you see her wearing that leopard caftan.
Yeah.
That was Angelina's rack. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
And then others we did together, Britney Spears.
Yeah.
That was pretty
Remember
crazy.
that? That was crazy with all those little kid dancers. The
Yes, that we
ballerina.
never ran. We
Yeah.
never ran.
It didn't? There wasn't fun
No.
with them in the back?
Nope. No.
Yeah. It's really awesome. I remember she
Right?
took a nap.
I know Jonathan Van Meter talked all about that interview too, because remember, the cover hadn't shipped yet, and September 11th happened, and we were just going to the printer. So that's when they put the American flag behind her. She just seemed like a regular girl to us, didn't you think?
I thought she was awesome. We had that little Britney hat made.
Yes.
The
The Fascinator. Yes. That was genius.
I remember her being lovely, and we did cast some kid dancers, and she was amazing with them.
It didn't run inside, but they are out there in the world. So,
Correct.
because I remember we didn't tell the kids who it was. And I remember how excited they were. I really fought to get that image in because it was just such a special moment. And then with Cameron Diaz, I remember how long I waited to be able to get a cover with her. But were you on the first shoot?
I was on the circus shoot.
Okay, so not when we did the Charlie's Angels when it didn't run.
No.
Okay. Yeah, so after we did this big shoot with the three of them, because at that time they only wanted to shoot covers together, we ended up having to reshoot that. And it took a while for Cameron to come back around. But that was a super fun shoot. I remember.
That was incredible. Yeah. I remember that was all couture, and we went to a circus, and she was game to wear anything, and she wears clothes so well, and she's so funny and lovely. That was a good shoot.
Yeah, I
I
remember.
actually think there was a picture that ran with me putting
Yes.
her shoes on.
Yes, you and Tawny. Yep,
Yeah.
I know the picture exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I was just so excited to have her. And then another one I remember is the Reese Witherspoon when we found out just a couple weeks before the shoot that she was pregnant. And it was tricky. And we had all the animals with Stephen Klein.
Oh my God. Yes. We shot that in Malibu. That was
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
There was crazy animals.
Yeah, and
was there like a wolf or I don't know. Something crazy.
Yes, there was like 15 different animals. And I know they asked if someone was pregnant because I think the monkey she was holding was going crazy because they can sense it. And yeah, we had to kind of insert an animal because they're wild animals. I mean, not wild, but yeah, we had a wolf, a bear.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Reese and I became friends on that shoot. I remember it just came to me so clearly. I had gone on a date with a guy the night before, and he was like kind of weird. I remember, I don't even remember his name, but I said that I was doing this shoot with Reese Witherspoon the next day. And he was like, "Oh, I know her." And I was like, "Oh, great." So when I was dressing her, I was like, "Oh, this is so random, but I went on a date last night and the guy wants to go out again and he said that he knew you. Do you know him? Do you know anything about him?" And she was like, "No, that's so weird. I don't know him." And I was like, "Okay, creep." And
Oh,
then I got home that night and she asked someone in production or like her publicist to get my phone number. She left a message on my voicemail and she's like, "Leslie, it's Reese. I actually do remember him and you cannot go out with him again. Like, lovely to meet you. Take care." And I was like, that is so cool.
oh my
Like,
God.
she really went out of her way to like track me down to make sure like I did not go. And that, yeah.
Now, with all the photographers you worked with, I mean, we did a lot with Herb, which is very special that we had that time with him
Yes.
because there really is no one like him. We did a lot with Annie,
Yeah.
Stephen Klein. We did a lot, Stephen Meisel at that time. That Gwen Stefani is
Yeah.
still one of my favorite, and she was so cool. Like she
Yeah.
talked to us like the whole time, and we did Mario as well. So
Yeah.
we had a lot of shoots together with a bunch of different photographers. Knowing that you ended up becoming a stylist and
Mhm.
you still do magazine shoots, are there things that you picked up from some of those specific photographers that you kept in mind as far as how you dressed your talent or what you thought about when you were pulling looks for a shoot?
Um, I think I learned more of that from Tawny.
Yeah.
I think what I learned from being on set was the dynamic between the stylist and the photographer. I think when you're at Vogue, the stylist plays a really important part in the image, and not all stylists know that. They can fall into the background on shoots if you let that happen. So I think that I learned that a beautiful picture comes from a collaboration and a relationship with the photographer. And yeah, I think throughout my career too, I used to idolize those photographers and look at them. At that time, you know, they were like famous. I
Right.
don't know if it's really like that anymore, but I remember feeling that at that time. And then when I would get booked on a job with some of them as the stylist, it would just it still kind of gets me sometimes.
Which ones have you worked with as a stylist?
Like I've shot with Annie,
Wow.
and I've shot with Mario and Peter Limberg.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
And what did you feel like? Because as I was saying earlier about once you're an assistant, it's hard for people to look at you differently. I would have almost gotten more respect in my mind
Mhm.
from other editors sometimes, or Laurie Jones, or people that had really known me as Anna's
Mhm.
assistant if I had come in as an editor. There had been a lot of years between you assisting Tawny and you establishing yourself as a very well-known stylist. At first, did they snap into you as Tawny, or was it
No,
still?
I think you have imposter syndrome for a while.
Yeah.
And then over time it changes. But
Yeah.
I think for a long time I felt like that. Like
Yeah.
an imposter a little.
Um, so you're a fairly shy person, soft-spoken, mellow person. And in a 2015 interview with Into the Gloss, you said, "I think I always had a voice stylistically from a young age. I never conformed. Even if someone was telling me I had to wear heels, I was like, I don't have to do that. I can wear flats, except in Anna's office. And I almost wore flats just to be different." So I would think it would have been a bit hard at Vogue to put that into practice all the time, or at least maybe at the beginning, and maybe not hard because you can do whatever you want, but uncomfortable, maybe.
Mhm.
How did you handle that?
I think I've always been that. I think I don't think I'm shy. I think I'm inward a little bit.
Mm, mm.
Um, but like if everyone was smoking in high school, I would not smoke just because everyone was smoking. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? I've always lived my life like that.
But
I don't have to
clothes,
do that
yeah, but
because
clothes are different. Clothes at Vogue. That's why even just using that heels and flats, it's funny because
yes,
it
I think at
becomes
first I did it because I was told I had to. But then when I
right,
realized that I didn't really have to,
right.
I switched
Yeah,
and I dressed more like myself.
yeah,
Because I think I was young and I wasn't really in a position to like insert myself. And I was like, okay, well, I guess this is what working is about. And I'm just going to kind of follow the rules. I'm not necessarily a rebel, but
right,
I don't like to be told if it's not breaking the law, I'm like, that I
right.
can't do it. You know what I mean? So,
Isn't that funny though? Because when I interviewed with Bucky Keaty, and I love her, so many people have talked about their interview with her. But to say, okay, Anna can see you tomorrow, but wear skinny heels. I had
mhm.
9 West. I had no idea. I was coming from LA, but it's funny that thinking about it now, I had to buy so many clothes to wear for work, right? That were not clothes I would ever wear. Not
Mhm.
none of it was stuff I'd ever wear. It was like a uniform, but to wear something you were comfortable in, and it's just clothes, would be like you're making a statement. Clothes don't always have to be a statement. Like you always talk about the comfort,
Mhm.
confidence comes from comfort. So it's funny that when you're working at a magazine that's all about clothes, that
Right.
what you wear can be received as a statement when it's just what you like. It's the,
Yeah. I
you
think
know,
I just at Vogue at that time, we were selling a fantasy and you had to represent what the company's selling. It's just kind of like that, like any other business.
right.
So I think you had to conform a little bit, but I don't think it's like that anymore.
Yeah, no, 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 it isn't.
Yeah.
So you left Vogue to become the in-house director of celebrity relations at Prada. So how did that come about? Again, did you hear about the job and then you left Vogue to start at that job, or had you left Vogue and then started there?
Well, Karina had the job at the time and she told me she was leaving. And to be honest, I just wanted to make more money, I think,
Yeah,
is really was the motivator. And I think at Vogue, there's not that many positions to be promoted.
exactly.
You kind of have to leave to come back type
Right.
situation. So Karina was leaving and she told me the job was open and I interviewed for it. And then I told Anna about it and she was like, I think that's a good fit. Did I love the job? No, but it was like a step towards what I'm doing now, which I think helped me see the flip side of my current business. Um,
Right.
yeah. But I think the combination of both jobs allowed me to really understand styling, what I'm doing now.
No, for sure. And I love the quote where you talk about why you left Prada, or I could just paraphrase. You realized how much you loved dressing celebrities and working with actresses, but to be able to do it on your own with your own point of view, with clothes that you liked, almost not having to just dress them with what you had there. So not just one brand, but
Okay.
so how did you make that decision to leave? You were there briefly, which is great that you were able to start your career as a stylist so quickly and so young at that point. But
Yeah.
what was that transition? Because that would be you're there, you got this pretty coveted job at
Yeah.
Prada, especially if you're dressing celebrities. Who doesn't want to wear Prada?
I met Selma Hayek um, when I was at Prada. We did a project together, and she was going to be on the jury at Cannes, and she needed like 15 gowns or something ridiculous. So she actually offered to hire me to do the job for her. So I left Prada and went. and did that specific job. And it kind of spiraled from there.
So how was that first job though?
It was stressful. Yeah. So you would go through all the shows and call in the clothes and have custom gowns made and tons of fittings. And I actually, at the time, I didn't travel with her. She got ready herself in Cannes, but I prepped her for the trip. Now, if I were doing it, I would be there to like manage the situation.
But that's insane for a first
Yeah.
job. It's not like you're just doing
Yes.
the Oscars.
And it was like sink or swim. It was like, it was crazy, I remember. And from then it was like everything else was easy.
Yeah. So did you have a strategy on how to build this? So you have this one job. You don't know if this is going to
Oh,
be,
it was blind.
yeah, your career. Obviously, this is what you're thinking. I'm good at this. I have a star client. It can't get harder than this,
Yeah.
at the beginning. So then it's about, can this be a full-time job? Or am I going to have to get work elsewhere and build this up on the side? So what was the strategy from that job to, did you keep styling Selma and then did other people come to you, or
Yeah.
how
I
did you
think
get clients?
Thelma's publicist hired me to do Jennifer Connelly.
Oh, Carrie.
Yes. Yes. Carrie supported me a lot at the beginning and hired me to do a lot of things.
And did Jennifer not have a stylist before?
People really had stylists
Oh, okay.
at that time. It was really at the beginning of all of this craziness.
Okay.
So, yeah, Jennifer, Julianne, and Selma, those were like my first clients.
At that point, are you keeping all the clothes in your apartment, or are you?
I was living in a studio. I remember, oh my God, one night, it was a walk up. I had
Oh
to
my
pack out with
God.
my assistant all the clothes from my apartment. Like sometimes if I was so busy working, I couldn't see the TV from my bed. So I would have to just like read or go to bed
Oh.
early. And I couldn't separate the work from.
Of course.
Yeah. So one night, my assistant and I packed out of my studio and took all the clothes to Jennifer's house. And when I got home, my ceiling had fallen in, collapsed, like from water damage. And if all the clothes would have been in my studio, they would have been ruined. And at the time, I didn't even think to have an insurance policy, or it was just like a free for all. Like I didn't know what I was doing. It was just like, thank God the clothes weren't there. Yeah.
That is insane. So Charlize Theron, who we absolutely love. She is definitely your most visible client as far as the fact that she goes to a lot of events, makes a lot of movies, or we notice her at events because she always looks incredible. So she is a dream, and I can't imagine a better client for a stylist. She was beautiful, talented, the best body to dress. It must have felt like you're playing with Barbies with her, and she's so cool too. Tell us about working with Charlize, because I know you two are very close. How did you meet her? And
I met her. She was looking for a stylist, and her publicist set up a meeting. And I basically went to her office and had a meeting with her, and luckily got the job. And I just saw her yesterday. She's the best. The best thing about her is that she hires people to do their job and she lets them do it. So she'll say, you decide that this is your job. She doesn't have space in her brain to take on all the roles. She just is very good at picking who should do what, and then she trusts them to do their job, which is incredible. Not everyone's like that, especially with something like clothes where it's such an expression of who you are, or like how you feel. So she really trusts me, and we've been working together for so long that I can kind of know she's going to like this or she's going to hate this. And sometimes she'll be like, well, if you're really passionate about it, I will try it. So she definitely will do that. And she's just the best. She's smart. She's beautiful. She's loyal. She's
Hmm.
strong. She's like me. She doesn't really give a shit.
Yeah.
It works. You can't explain it. Either works or doesn't.
Yeah, I love what you said about trusting. I think you'll agree what we ran up against occasionally at Vogue, that trust is so important. It's so important in all aspects. It's important on set between the photographer and the hair and makeup. Trust the process. And for talent to trust Vogue and the Vogue teams that we're going to make you look amazing, but it is a leap of faith for some people. It's how they look. Being on cover of Vogue, walking a red carpet is very important. And for the talent, it's up for scrutiny now.
Yeah.
Do you have any nightmare stories about that? How can you judge a look? Let's even start.
You can't pay attention. It's so subjective. If you read all that stuff, it'll make you crazy. And then it makes you doubt yourself. And in this job, you have to believe in yourself. All that you have is your belief in your point of view. You have to just not engage in. Obviously, I read the comments in the press sometimes, but you have to really try not to. It's such a weird thing because it's like such a high, and then you get them ready, and then they leave, and then the press come for you, and it's just it crashes. It's just like a roller coaster of emotion, because there's so many opinions. You have to just realize it's not that serious. Don't read it. And
Yeah. When we shot Demi Moore for the cover, and she said she doesn't read negative reviews, but she doesn't read positive either. You have to believe in yourself and not let either one of them affect how you feel.
Well, that's true. It's like this ranking of stylists. If you believe you're number one, when they say you're number one, you have to believe when they say you're number 20. You can't buy into that because there's no way to judge. Everyone's just doing their work and trying to put their art out there. And
exactly.
It's I don't know. I'm not into all that.
Yeah. So looking back at this incredible career, is there any advice you would give to a 20-something who's yearning to have a career even 1/10 as or 1/100th as successful as yours?
I think apprenticeships are important. I do think that you learn on the job, and you should look for someone whose work you admire and reach out and try to get on as an intern or as a third assistant and be loyal and learn from that person. And don't think like after 3 months you've learned everything. It takes a long time. I've had assistants for 6 years, 7 years. Just it takes time. And I think people are looking to get somewhere much quicker these days. And it's really a slow build. You have to take your time and learn and grow and learn some more. And you need patience for it, I think.
Yep, that's exactly what Gabby was saying about the apprenticeship, how important that is. And that it's kind of something that's happening now where that's being lost. What is your superpower that makes you so great? I know you've talked about it a lot.
I think I'm calm.
Yes, you are.
I'm very direct. I think that is a superpower. I think that I believe in my vision, and I don't let anyone tell me otherwise, even if they're right. I don't listen. I think that's a superpower. I think that I work hard, but not too hard. And I surround myself with women that are inspiring and smart. And I only take jobs that really inspire me to work. And I'm not going to leave my kids for just any job. I really handpick my jobs. That obviously came with time, but I think that I'm at a place now where I can do that. And I think just always being professional, like all you have is your reputation. So I think that's a key component. And you look around after doing this for so many years and you see all the people you kind of came up with and what they're doing now. And it's kind of incredible how small the industry becomes. And at the beginning, you just think it's so huge. It's really a small network of people that stay in it and are kind of like diehards.
Yeah, they
to
don't
the end.
retire. They do
Yeah.
not retire. Okay. I like to end each episode asking my guests the same 7 rapid fire questions. It's just this or that.
Okay.
AM or PM?
Ooh, AM.
Text or talk?
Talk.
Uber or Subway?
Uber.
Book or film?
Film.
Sweet or spicy?
Sweet.
Spots or stripes?
Stripes.
Top or bottom?
Mean.
Whatever you want it to mean. I think of it as clothing. I mean, I wear the same bottoms every day. A version. I change,
Bottom.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad we were able to talk today. It's so funny. It's been like 27 years that we've known each other. I mean, it's just the wildest. It's crazy. It's crazy. There is a small circle. We've all been through, we all did our time, and it's almost like we were Army recruits together. And it's so awesome to just see where everyone is.
Oh my God, that's
yeah, it must have been like 1999 or something. Right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that
is
Yes,
that
it's
so
16 years. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't, like, when I think about it like that, I'm just like, that's so nuts.
No, and we had some fun. We
Oh
sure
my
did.
God. We definitely did. I like to forget about that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, lady.
Great to talk to you.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, that's our show. Thanks for listening to Going Rogue. And be sure to like and subscribe. Today's show is produced by me and Maddie Rosenberg at Radio Free Rhinecliff with assistance from Maddie Kelly. Special thanks to David Vo for our great graphics and Taras Romanov for our epic theme music.